Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new Pillowcast. Today, I'm so grateful to welcome somebody who has always something wholesome and intellectual to say about life and living, my dear friend, the Zen Zebra, Anubhav. Anubhav, welcome to Pillowcast.
Thank you so much, Sakshi, first of all, for inviting me and saying such beautiful words. So I would like to tell that me and Sakshi, we have known each other for a long time.
For a long time, yes.
And, we also always used to appreciate each other's intellectualism and we always used to have such discussions. I'm a very different person outside with the other group, but with Sakshi, I tend to have all those intellectual feelings. So
And today we have Anubhav for a topic that he is personally very passionate about, something that he also preaches and lives in his actual life. Today we are going to talk about ancient texts and how the knowledge in these texts is something that we can use to inform our ways of living in the modern world, to live more mindfully, to live a more wholesome life in this chaos.
yes, that is correct. And so I'll just tell you a small personal journey before we connect into this to all the audience. That like I was living a life which was not very thoughtful. Let's say like it was not very thoughtful. I was just living for the moment, and somehow I got introduced by one of my great friends, now great friends, that about the texts which are about the ancient texts, about the Vedic texts, and he just gave me this book and told me that why don't you read this? And like it was kind of intoxicating. Like initially it was like a medicine to me, but now it has like become a full diet for me. The same texts which were like acting like a medicine back then, I somehow like I cannot live without them in this like in my present life. In my it's like my daily food. So I would just like to give a gist and the essence of few of the topics, few of the F1s. These are like I've taken out some small parts of the Sanskrit text, and that's what we'll discuss, and we'll try to open up and give the audience their chance also to actually participate in the conversation by giving it as a open house kind of a thing.
Absolutely. So please do put in your comments down below. Tell us what you feel about the learnings that Anubhav is going to be sharing with us today. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to share. Okay, so before diving in to the learning straight up, so as you said, you personally have been invested in this knowledge for a long time now, and I feel like it's always so important to find that kind of connection and something in your life that opens you up to a more deliberate way to live life. I'm very excited for today's discussion and to learn from you.
I feel that this has this leads to a very practical way of learning. If I can imbibe something which I'm learning, if I can bring it to my life, which I think many people lack these days, is that they read these things, they preach these things, but when it comes to living by it, there's a disconnect between the two. So these teachings which I found, like they're very practically possible to actually live by, and luckily I found a person who was actually living by this, and which gave much more faith to me that okay, this is actually practically possible. I can see a person doing this. So let's just go to the first one, which is Swadharman api chaveksha na vikam pitum arhasi. And the Sanskrit means that considering your specific duty, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than to engage in that duty. So, what this basically means is that the situation around us and the situation, the surroundings, and the times, circumstance, places, they indicate a specific duty which has to be rendered by us, which the duty which has to be done by us. And many times we crib over that. Why do I have to do this? But this text means that there is no better engagement for you other than to address to that activity, address to that duty, and complete that duty. So this, first of all, we're trying to establish ourselves on the duty platform, that how important the duty is. And I feel the society has gone really far away from doing their duties.
Right.
There's a very stark example which actually highlights this is the modern day, how men and women are trying to live. This, it's not just about men, women, but even the students, teachers, everyone is trying to do someone else's duty rather than focusing on what is the duty given to them. Children are trying to earn money in college, thinking that I'm trying to become independent. As of now, that is not their duty. Their duty is to just just learn as of now. And when it comes there, when the time comes for them to earn, then they should do it. If they do it prematurely, then it becomes very dangerous as well.
Right.
Like they get into wrong habits and everything. So prematurely doing someone else's duty or trying to, just surpass your duty and do a duty of a different stage, that is very dangerous.
Absolutely, I think it's a very interesting concept what you say about prematurely doing your duty and like doing somebody else's duty, because our Vedic life is divided into definite phases of life, right? You are a child and then you become a teenager, an adult, and in that life you're not supposed to earn, you're just supposed to focus on your own learning, your own education, and then when you move into your familial life, that is when you have to take the responsibility of your family and everything. But I think it's also important to like pause and question like who is defining these duties, right? In our modern world, when a lot of people have kind of dissociated with our religious ancient texts that have defined the foundations of our living, a lot of people are not aware of what those sayings are. So we need to pause and sort of define who is telling you what these duties are, and why do you actually trust that authority, right? Yeah. And then again, and the thing you mentioned about the gendered perspective on duties, especially in today's world when there is this discourse of everybody trying to make a more inclusive world and break out of these chains and boxes that gender especially are put into, that okay, men are supposed to do one kind of thing and then women are supposed to do one kind of thing. And today it's more it's not very prevalent, but then it's becoming fluid slowly, where like women are also going out to work, right? Men are also doing, some men are also choosing to stay back and take care of the family, right? So how do you think that plays into this entire conversation? Because it's true that a lot of our ancient knowledge has been a little bit biased, at least that's what I feel, biased towards gender, and or not just gender, just people, and put into boxes and sort of told to do one specific kind of thing. Is it really possible in today's world when everything is in flux?
No, it's actually not possible. And we'll come to the second question later. But first of all, who is defining these duties? Actually, this is a really interesting question. And first of all, we have to accept the fact that the word duty itself means that it cannot be assigned by ourselves to, we can call it a task or desire, but we cannot call it a duty.
Absolutely.
So, duty, the usage of the word duty means that it has been indicated by a higher authority.
Right.
It's like, my father has told me to do this, or my guru has told me to do this, my teacher has told me to do this.
Right.
And so it comes through a hierarchy of a person whom you respect more than yourself. So that if that person has told you something to do, that is what becomes a duty. And the best example is of Lord Ram in this, that his mother had told him to, through his father obviously, that you have to go and live in the forest. So that came as a duty towards him. Although at last Bharat invited him back, no need to go, but that he did it as a duty. So now the question is that anything which our seniors will tell us to do, should we do it as a duty? Answer is no. We only those seniors who have followed their seniors in regard to this, that is a chain coming, and through that a person who is the bona fide representative, whoever the bona fide representative of that duty is, if he tells us to do something, that should be respected as a duty. So right now, directly connecting with the texts are also humongous. It's not practically possible for us to read all the texts.
Yes.
But if we can just simply find a person who is living a life and whom it does not require a lot of rocket science to understand whether this person is doing his duties or not. But if you have found a person who is doing his duties, and if you simply go to him or her and ask what are my duties in this situation,
Right.
then that should be good enough for you to get an answer that what are my duties.
That's very insightful, because uh, your argument basically defines the way how our lives are guided by these unsaid and invisible bonds, right? You talk about a father, a guru, a teacher. Now, these bonds cannot be materially or tangibly understood, right? This is something very unsaid, right? If you think. If you think on molecular levels, like your father is just a person, right? But then you call him your father, right? Somebody who brought you into into this life, and then there is an unsaid bond where you have to respect this person, right? Even though you are not philosophically attached to this person, but like morally, and also on a lot of levels religiously attached to this person in these unsaid ways. So you have to honor that relationship. So I think all of these duties can only make sense once you respect these bonds that we share with each other, and acknowledging the fact that we are all connected in some way or the other. Like even though we are not related by blood, we are friends. So we owe certain kind of duties to each other. Yeah.
The relationship, the word relationship means that there are some duties to be performed in that relationship.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's not like I just go and keep on taking and taking.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
So coming to the next question, and which was regarding the practical application or the possibility of doing your duties, and particularly the gender related thing which we had discussed. So the times have changed a lot, and one thing which the scriptures also says that with the advancement of time, the principle should be valid. The details must vary. Not like the details might vary, the details must vary. And this is one principle, and this is one saying in which we maintain the principle that you have to perform your duties. But the duties of a girl and a boy right now, as a child, previously in previous times, and even in some locations of India, there's still like a huge difference of what a boy has to do and what a girl has to do.
Right.
And a modern in a city like girl cannot just barge into their family and saying that, okay, why are you asking the girl to do this? It's their culture, and you have to respect their time, place, and circumstance.
Right.
So everyone is getting born and getting the duties from a time, place, and circumstance.
Absolutely.
And the kind of a family setup which we are on right now, the time, place, and circumstance of a boy and a boy child and a girl child, they are very similar as compared to if you go to any remote part or into a different country altogether. So there might be some victims of this, of course, because every good principle has a bad application also. Just like a knife, like you can either use it to operate a patient, or you can use it to slit people's throat and rob them. So, but this principle, the bad application of this principle does not make the whole principle itself wrong. So you have to use it wisely in the context of how to apply this in case of a girl and a boy, and in case of a husband or a wife, the duties. It's not that the wife does not have to go outside and work, or it's not like that husband cannot take care of the children at home. It's just the wise application that according to this time, place, and circumstance, what is it that the duty is indicating?
Right.
I've never said that husband's duty is to go outside and work, or the wife's duty. And only thing which the principle is saying is that you have to do your own duty.
Yes.
And what your duty is, there are so many possibilities that they possibly cannot capture all of them in this verse.
Absolutely.
For that, you have to go to a person who is learned and who can actually extract what the duty is from all the literature. He can extract and tell you what the duty is. Sometimes for a husband, it is better to stay at home and take care, and for a wife to go outside and work.
Yeah.
Versus sometimes it's better for a
Makes
wife
sense.
to come to stay at home and take care of children.
Right.
And second one is sukha dukha samay kritva labha labha jaya jaya. Do your duty for the sake of doing your duty without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat. Now, very simple explanation for this is that many people sometimes, say, why should I do this? There is no motivation attached to, there is no benefit for me. And the fact, what this recommendation of the scripture here is that do your duty with the motivation of doing your duty.
Right.
Like, that is it. There's a sense of achievement, and there's a sense of happiness, of fulfillment, which you get once you do your duty.
Right.
And the best example of this is go and ask the mother
Yeah.
who is taking care of a small child. She's getting actually nothing out of that small child, but just the happiness which comes by doing your duty of either it is waking up late at night for taking care of your child, or just feeding the child and keeping yourself hungry. So that sense of happiness is what you will get. But scriptures are talking about just do your duty. That is the
Right.
motivation. So
Absolutely. I think, as simple as it sounds, I think it is one of the most difficult things to do, because you always tend to attach yourself to the outcomes of your actions. It can never be independent of it. And I feel like for a person to feel absolutely satisfied with doing their own duty and performing their own effort, you need certain kind of completeness in your own self. When you are a wholesome being, when you are just happy being in your own element and doing your own work with joy, only then can you dissociate yourself from the the product of your efforts, right? And I think this is something that comes with age. I still remember when I was in my undergrad days, one of my professors, she told me that you should always keep a distance from your work, and you should never be too involved, because then it creates problems. And at that time, being the young and the wild spirit that I was like, no, I want to be too involved in what I do, because I was very passionate about what I was learning. And now, when I have sort of grown a little bit wiser, I have more exposure and knowledge, I know how essential it is for you to dissociate yourself from what you're doing, because that tends to create frustration. Like, a lot of times you put in your everything into something you're doing, and it doesn't really manifest the way that you want it to. And then you tend to go into self doubt. You question your own abilities. You are not deriving any kind of joy with your own work that once gave you so much of fulfillment. So that requires a lot of knowledge on an individual's part. And this is something, of course, to practice is perfection, right? Like, you have to practice this every day, where you do something for the sake of doing it.
For the sake of it. That is the most important thing, actually. Like, not be like, what will I get from this? What will I get from this? You just have to. That is the word, actually. The word duty means, actually, in one sense, that is what the word duty means. That no matter what the consideration, whether it's right or wrong, in someone's language, it might be wrong to do that. But the word duty itself indicates that no matter what the consideration is, and as said in the verse also, that happiness or distress, loss or defeat, loss or gain, no matter what, the duty has to be done.
Yeah.
Like, you just do it for the sake of doing your duty. And the only place where you can feel sad about is not being able to do your duty. There is no other thing that should demotivate you.
I think it's much more difficult in today's world, because in the kind of neoliberal world that we're living in, everything is quantifiable, right? One like is quantifiable. A picture is an economy in itself, right? A click is an economy, right? A scroll is an economy. So you can quantify everything in today's day and age. So you tend to associate a kind of tangible value to everything you're doing. Everything is an economy, and that's why I think it's even
It puts too much pressure on mind, actually. It puts so much pressure on mind.
Absolutely, it does. So I think it's even more difficult to do this in today's modern world, because it's essentially proactive, right? There is hustle culture. There is all sorts of things where you are constantly trying to do something, to achieve something, to be someone, right? So I believe it's very essential to practice this in daily life, because I think personally it'll give you a lot of peace.
The third one, which is a very interesting one, I believe, it has an element of surprise to it.
Oh,
That
lovely.
what all interpretations can be taken out from this. Yavan artha udupane sarvata samprutodake. All purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. So, just a small story to it, that in Vedic times, there were many wells in a particular place. One was used for washing the clothes, because you cannot obviously drink the same water in which you wash the clothes, or one for taking bath, one for doing the deity worship, one for letting the cows to drink or the animals to drink. So there were multiple wells. But if there was a simply a reservoir of water, like a lake or something, or flowing river nearby, then all the purposes of these small wells was at once met by that reservoir. So how this actually translates into our practical, into our modern day life, is that we put so much of effort in small efforts and solutions. I have to please this person, I have to please my boss, I have to please my mother, I have to please my child, and do this thing, do that activity. We are putting so much effort in such small places, but still somewhere that vacuum, that thing is that vacuum, that pinprick in the heart is not going away. And that is why, because you're not putting the effort in the place where it actually counts. And the place where it actually counts is doing your duty. So if you keep on doing your duty, as we discussed previously, then all the happiness and all these things which you're getting, trying to extract from small places, can at once be fulfilled. Now there are thousands of means which you can take out from this verse, but in the context of duty, this is one of the interpretations of this. Like, this is one of the interpretations.
That is so beautiful. Absolutely. This is something that my father always says. He says that you focus on your own work, you focus on your own efforts, and everything will take care of itself. that everything will come around. And it's again something that's very, very difficult for people to do, especially young people who do want to do 100 things at once, right? Because, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the hustle, right? You love the hustle. You want to do everything at once, right?
And this verse, if you note it carefully, it's not telling you to stop putting efforts on that.
Yeah.
It's telling you to, even if you're doing putting efforts in 100 other places, the focus and the attitude, the consciousness should be attached to one thing, that is doing your duty. If that is part of your duty, then you have to.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not telling you to stop doing one particular activity. It's just telling you that whatever you are doing, just maintain the right consciousness of doing that.
Absolutely. And I'm a great believer in this fact, because I do believe each and every person is here for a singular purpose. And this is the purpose that gives meaning to your life, all the efforts that you're putting in. But I do agree that there is one particular thing, no matter how many things you do in your life, there is this one particular thing that gives you the kind of joy that nothing else does. And it is different for different people. For some people, their work is very essential. For some people, it's their relationships. For some people, it's the family. For some people, it's the friends. And everything is correct according to me. There is not one true
You
path.
cannot put someone in your own template that this is what you have to do, because the fact I am doing this.
Absolutely. That's very true. And I think this is such a great lesson in also practicing compassion, right? To being open to not agreeing with the other person. If you tell me that for you, the most important thing is your family, and as you know, it should be work. I mean, we can find this really nice, coexisting together, where I am honoring the fact that for you, your work or your family is important, and for me, it's the other way around. So it's a great lesson in kind of practicing our celebrating our individuality and also the other person.
That is true. That is very important to acknowledge, and that is what actually the word sensitivity means. If you look at a deeper perspective, the word sensitivity, it's acknowledging the other person's individuality.
Right.
A person who's insensitive tries everyone to fit in the template of his own mind.
Yes.
And being sensitive is a very important quality. I believe in, to maintain your relationships, to have a good wholesome life and a good happy life, you need to be sensitive to the people who are around you. And sensitivity comes from the fact that you acknowledge their individuality, their style of doing work.
Also, this thought creates such a happy place for everybody to create their own meanings of, let's say, success or results or anything at all, right? For you, if let's say your dish has won the best dish in MasterChef, and then but my dish is being loved by my family, we can both be successful in those stuff, right? So it creates it gives a lot of responsibility on the individual as well to define their own standards, to define their.
As the modern society is going away from the sensitivity aspect, from the individuality aspect, everyone is being told to just go and win MasterChef. Like, they're just they're trying to attach something which has more name, fame, prestige involved in it. Everyone is trying to, mold their individuality or their dependence individuality according to what will give you more name, fame, and reputation.
Yes.
Not like what will make that person more, individualistic or doing what he's best at.
Absolutely.
So now it takes us to the fourth one, which is one of the most oftenly quoted verses of Bhagavad Gita, which says, "Karmanya vidikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala hetur mato samu astva akarmani." It means it is divided into four parts basically. You have the right to perform your duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of the action of the duty. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activity, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So, what it simply means that sometimes, like now we've discussed three verses which has so-called establishments in the duty platform. Now comes a challenge that what if the other person is stopping me to do my duties?
Right.
I'm trying to do something, but the other person is stopping me to do the duty. So that is what this verse is indicating, is that you have the right to perform your duty. Whatever it takes to do your duty, it is your right to do that duty. And fighting for that right is not, fighting in, vain. It's not like you doing some sort of a wrong fight, or you have the right to perform the duty. And if someone is stopping you to do that, then you have the right to even struggle and fight to perform that duty. Next is saying that, but you're not entitled to the fruits of the action. Whatever that duty is going to give you, you're not entitled to that. And just like a example, our favorite example of a mother and a child, like it's the mother's right to feed her child. If someone is saying other than do this, do that, she can tell anyone, whoever it is, that I have this duty to be performed right now, so let me do that. But now she's not entitled to the results, that what will child do after he grows up, and I have feeded him right now, and I'm entitled to the whatever earnings he has in the future. I'm entitled to that. So that is what this verse is saying, that you do not have to be attached to the results of what the duty has done.
We talk about duty and doing things, and then we talk about not really caring about where it leads to, which is, if you talk in today's term, it's very counterproductive, right? Because you do, I think everybody has this sort of an urge to feel like their life is worth something, that
Right.
everything that we're not uh, just simply dust in this spectrum of things, right? We're not just a blip in the universe, because everybody wants to
Very
make that
good.
dent in that universe, right? So you do want to feel that your life and your existence carries weight, right? That whatever you are doing is contributing to something bigger than yourself, maybe something that you cannot fully understand, but something, because it affirms your beliefs, right? It's that thing in philosophy where we talk about the myth of Sisyphus, where there is this person who is pushing the boulder up a rock, and then rock comes back down, and he's doing the same thing again. And then Kamu, the person who wrote it, he said that you must always imagine Sisyphus happy, that he was happy doing it. It's
Majorly because of the setup and the way we have set up a society right now. It was previously not so difficult to do that, to do the same activity. Like every work was being respected, and every work was being respected equally. None of the work was like higher, like in today's language, engineering or not work would be in UPSC or IS person is being considered like a, this work is more important than being doing something like a carpentry job or putting the tiles, doing masonry work. So, but in previous setup, it was easier because people were, they respected each other's work more properly. But right now, what is happening is that the whole society is being surcharged and is driven in that direction, where we are told that okay, this is the fruit which you have to get from your activity. Like everyone is bombarding us with okay, इस करने से ये फायदा नहीं हुआ तो क्या फायदा है इसको करने का, मतलब अगर तुम यही नहीं कर पाए तो क्या फायदा है, मतलब इस चीज का. So constantly we're being bombarded with such things, and therefore it's difficult to practice it today's time the same thing as it was in the previous time. Absolutely. So the third and the fourth part of it, the verse is saying, never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. So, one third part is saying that you don't have to consider yourself that because of me this work is happening. You have the right to perform your duty, but if you do your duty with the mentality that I am the one who is doing it, that I am the one who is feeding my child, then it's again not doing your duty actually. Then it's like you're working for your own name, fame, and reputation, which is contradictory to term duty itself. If you're working for your own name, fame, and reputation, the duty, you do not have to consider that you are the one who is causing the work to be done. You're just like an instrument which is put there, and it's like a nut in that whole machinery. If that nut is not there, then the whole machinery will fail. Like it will just break down while it's operating. But that nut is not doing the everything which that machinery is doing. So it's like it's you're important. Your place is there, but you do not have to consider yourself to be the cause of that. This is the most interesting part of the saying for me. Yes, because it addresses the prime quality, and I think most of human beings, where they believe that they're the center of their universes, right? Like they have a cause and effect relationship with everything that's happening around them. So be it as petty as okay, somebody said something to you, so you tend to feel like you did something to cause that kind of reaction in somebody. Right. So you question your own ways of living, and what you said, what you did, and we try to measure ourselves from other person's mirror. Absolutely, yes. So that happens a lot, and this then again comes down to seizing that control and understanding that you are not the center but a part of this whole scheme of things. Okay, you're a part of something much bigger, like a web of network. And if we talk in very material terms, you are at the nexus of these institutions that work around you, so your socio-cultural context,
right? A lot of things that you do in life are not totally the result of your actions, but brings into play a lot of your context, right? Where you are coming from, where you are living, the kind of institutions that are around you, and just so placing yourself, contextualizing your own life is very, very prime, right? Where understanding that you cannot possibly be the center, right? Center, and in this chaotic modern world, I feel like the center is already unstable. The center has now given away to this free play of things that happen. There's just random chaos around that.
Everyone is trying to become the center. So there is a one center, and all the central and all the circles around that center are concentric. And even if some center is being drawn on this other another if one circle is being drawn on another circle, it's just enhancing the beauty and the depthness of that circle. But if there are multiple centers and now you try to draw circles on that, it looks so chaotic and hodgepodge, and it's not making any aesthetic sense. So if there is, you don't have to be that center. Don't think that I am that center. You don't have that capacity to become that center. And if let's say that you become the center and everything is revolving around you, it's not possible for you to actually live by it. You don't have that capacity to become the center. So, and this leads us to the fourth part of the of this verse, which is, one might say that okay, I have the right to perform my duty, but I do not have to take the results of the duty, and I'm not taking the ownership of the duty as well. So why? What is the need to do that?
Yes.
So the verse is saying that no, do not be attached to not performing your duty.
Right.
That do not be lazy to not perform, because you're not getting the results, you're not getting the ownership, you're not getting any sort of acknowledgement of doing your duty. So he said, why should I do my duty? Anyways, my duty is going unnoticed and no one is acknowledging that. So why should I do my duty? And I'm not getting any benefits out of it. So this verse is saying that do not be attached to not performing your duty. That is also taken as an instruction while you trying to follow these three aspects. You also have to keep yourself aware of the fact that I have to do this duty.
Right.
That there is no possibility of not doing it.
Yeah. I think this again leads to two ways of thought, where one, where you understand that okay, your efforts lead to nothing, so you can just give up and be like, okay, nothing means anything. You can just like, just give up and everything. But then there's another thought process where you celebrate that fact. If everything that you do leads to nothing, isn't that so liberating also? Where you don't have to take everything so seriously, right? Okay, if you want to go do that job which means nothing to everybody but means a lot to you, go do it, right? If all of this will lead nowhere, you at least have the liberty with your own lives to experiment, to actually try new things out and just try to live the way that you want to.
The fifth one is talking about a very simple concept known as yoga. What is yoga? So it says Samatman Yoga Uchate. Samatman means equanimity, yoga means yoga obviously, and Uchate means is called. So equanimity is called yoga. And now I'm trying to bring out the context that after you perform your duties, so there's a concept which is known as connecting to God. Yoga, in actually, if you take out the Hindi meaning of the word yoga, in what we call as addition in English, in mathematics, the same thing when we're adding two numbers, it becomes yoga. In लोग को योग कर दो, दो और तीन का योग पांच. So in Hindi, addition is called yoga. So which basically means connecting. And in context like these, in this verses like this, yoga means connecting with God. So once you've done your duty properly, and it would lead you a natural connection with the God. This is the science. This is how the science works. No matter how much you try to question it, I'm sure there might be brilliant thousands of reasons regarding why duty leads to connection with God. But let's say that it does. And one of the first aspects which shows that you have done your duty properly is having the quality of equanimity.
Okay.
And this is what it calls that the fact that you are getting connected with God and you are equanimous. That is what is indicating. We'll see it in the next verse also, which is very close to this one. Actually, we can do it together as well.
Sure.
This next one is Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam. The perfection of all work is yoga. And this one which I spoke was Samadman Yoga Uchyate. That equanimity is called yoga.
Right.
So if any work is making you agitated, or if any work is making you suffer, or giving some sorts of negative qualities, then it means that you've not done that work properly. It means that you have not done that duty properly. The fact that you have done the duty properly means that you are getting connected with yoga, which is indicated by the term yoga karmasu kaushalam. And this one of the symptoms of that you're doing is yoga is that you're being equanimous. So if the doing of your duty or if the doing of your work is making you very proud, if it is making you very hard-hearted, if it is making you not being sensitive for any other else, or not making you empathetic, or not making you sympathize with anyone else, or not giving you that sort of feelings, the inner feelings of heart, that means you're not doing that work properly. The first symptom of that work being done properly is that it is making you humble, it is making you kindness, it is making you soft-hearted. So that is what this verse is indicating. I think this is something that I would take back with me from this podcast, because it is so beautiful to say that everything should make you softer, or make you feel that softer feelings of life and towards everybody. But when you say connect, like your work should connect you to a higher being, I was immediately reminded of this scene from this movie called Kung Fu Panda. I think it's the second part where Po is trying to balance. Po is the prime, the panda. So he's trying to balance a raindrop, I think, on his hands. And it's one of these beautiful moments that he does where he's so in sync with himself and his own existence. And it's just so beautiful to watch, right? And it happens with me when I watch like these dancers who are so in sync with their movements, and it sort of feels like it's a practice in worship for them, right? Where it always feels like they're connecting to something higher than all of us, right? That's why I have great respect for musicians, for dancers, for all kind of performers, because they have a kind of connection with a higher purpose, a higher being, which the rest of mortals do not. And I think music and dance have that ability that those are very natural to the soul. These sorts, these skills like music and dance and the natural things which a person does, they have the ability to actually give you full complete satisfaction of art. No matter how much code you write, that cannot give you that satisfaction. Which and then I think that is one of the major reasons why we go to sad songs when we're sad, because we completely want to absolve ourselves into those feelings and feel it so intensely that you can actually address it then. Right? Which is so it just makes sense, doesn't it? So yeah, and I think work then, of course, then connecting to a higher purpose gives you a sort of insight into life that other things cannot. If you can give your work a meaning which only you and your understanding of a god can, it's this very personal exclusive relationship which is each one of us have that relationship. We don't have to impose any other thing, like absolutely. My teacher says that one of the very beautiful things which my teacher says is that I'm not trying to do anything extra or trying to make you this sort of a person, or make you a good dude, or make you sort of a better person. I'm not trying to do any of this. All I'm trying to do is create an environment where you can act naturally. And I trust this fact that naturally everyone is a good, everyone is a very beautiful person. Everyone is actually everyone naturally in the natural state is super awesome person, and they're super sensitive and all have all the good qualities. So what I try to do is I just try to create an environment of love where the other person can act naturally, and I don't have to do anything. My effort is just creating that environment. Now, how much time and how much you absorb that environment inside you, how much you try to experience that love, determines what time it takes for you to come out those make those natural qualities come out. That is so wise, isn't it? To just be in that sort of environment, like I can feel the positivity radiating off of it. And if you and then again, if you can establish that kind of relationship with your work and with your own higher being and understanding of it, it then takes care of all the rest of the things that we've been talking about, or about dissociating yourself with the result of your actions, of not letting it make you hard-hearted, not making you be in competition with other people. And if you can just in your natural state, you are not competitive. As a child, are you competitive? No, you enjoy. So, and child, it's really the society which is feeding us about all of these things.
if we as individuals are conscious about that fact, if we are understanding that there is something inherently wrong with it, I think we'll make a better effort to create that sort of environment for the next generation that is to come. Right. I think we'll be more conscious of it, and I think that is something that we should all keep in mind always.
That is a very good motivation actually to work. Like yoga karma so question. Why should I work? Because I have to connect it with my superior self, you can say, or God, or whatever you want to call it. But the motivation for work is that connection, that relationship, that feeling of and that softness in heart.
Again, I know we try to say that there is no meaning and you should dissociate yourself with it, but I feel like this gives a lot of purpose to whatever you do, right? Trying to feel that connection to not just a god, but also the next generation that is to come, or to other people that you love and that you admire. That everything you do affects them in some way or the other, right? In these deep, meaningful, profound ways that we cannot truly understand. And that alone should give everybody the motivation to be the best they can be. And not best in a competitive way, but in a more softer, empathetic, and also compassionate ways.
So beautiful. The last verse, which actually gives a very positive ending to this beautiful talk which we're having, is Raso Varjam Rasopasya Param Drishtva Nivartate. The way to, so many times you are just struggling that, okay, all you're talking about is God, a beauty platform, and connecting with God, but I have this sort of lust in me. I'm very greedy person, I'm very judgmental. So this last verse is trying to indicate you this, that don't worry about all this. Raso Varjam Rasopasya Param Drishtva Nivartate. The way to give up all the bad attitudes, the bad activities which you're engaged in right now, is by engaging your mind in a higher taste. The way to give up a lower and a bad taste is not by rejecting food, but by having something higher taste. And if you once you experience that higher living, that higher taste, you won't go back to that lower taste. And in more so in context of, you can say that in food, okay, you might not have always the higher taste available, so I have to again and again go back in the lower taste. But in context of the topics which we are discussing, it's always possible because it's in here, it's in your consciousness, which is making you act like this. It's not your external dress, or the way you, the color of your dress, or which place of worship you go to. It's not talking about any of the things that you have discussed. They're talking about the internal attitude and what those actions are translating to, what your attitude, the actions are translating to. So the last verse is just saying that by engaging your mind in a higher and positive things, you can give up the lower and the bad things which are troubling your heart. And the best example is that the way to deal with the darkness is not by trying to fight darkness, that darkness go away, or taking a sword or something and just swinging around that go away darkness. It's by just switching on a light, even if it's a very small source of light. It begins by turning that light on. So, and that should be your whole effort, in your whole attitude, and your whole effort should be in switching on the light rather than trying to dispel away the darkness.
Absolutely. And I think this is a lesson that all of us can take away from this conversation. If you ever feel dejected or you find yourself with a lack of hope, just try to give positivity a chance. Try to give the rainbow a chance. And that does not in any way mean that you have to ignore the rain or you have to feel sad about that there is a storm, but also acknowledge those feelings. Only when you acknowledge the bad feelings there are can you make way for something more positive to come into your life. But always have that little bit of insight into your life, have that crack open. This is something that I always used to say, that it's good that you're cracked, but that's how the light gets in. So definitely just create a space for everything in your life, and know that it's all a moving cycle, right? Nothing is permanent. Everything is constantly moving, and that alone should give you a lot of hope to move forward, to give a lot of good things a chance in your life. And, with this, I'd like to thank Anubhav for beautifully and so lucidly telling us all of these beautiful Sanskrit sayings. I have personally learned a lot from them, and I
want to learn so much from you.
such a privilege. And I do hope everybody who is listening to us today takes back something positive, something meaningful, something profound back from this conversation. If you have any questions at all, please do drop them to us. And hopefully, if Anubhav has more time, we are going to have him over for another part. where we talk more about his learnings from ancient texts. Thank you so much again, Anubhav, and thank you everybody for listening. And we'll be back again soon with another episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much.